Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Earful Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G.
I'm Lina G.
Just Lina G.
Lina Norden G, if you want to be precise.
Well, there's one thing. We're not that precise around here. We're more about having fun. This episode is going to be an introduction of sorts to the Earful Tower. If you've never listened to an episode before, you've come to the right place. This is the starting point.
This is the beginning.
This is it. This is the beginning.
Is the
4
D-Day.
years in.
No, wait. You can't say that.
The D-Day.
No.
One thing we should mention from the beginning, we do not rely on Lina for French history knowledge.
Or any knowledge, for that matter.
But I think what we'll do is we're going to introduce each other. If you've been listening for a long time, there'll still be something in there for you. You might get a bit of a best-of vibe out of this episode. But if you are one of those people who've been listening for a long time or from the beginning, consider this as the episode that you should use to send your friends to give them an idea what this is all about.
Also, hello, how are you?
Who, me?
No, the people have been listening for a while.
Oh yeah, how are you
How
guys?
are you?
Send in an email with your response to that question. It's there's a third person.
Hey, yeah, I was wondering when you were going to bring me up. It's me, Eddie. I edited the episodes.
Ah yes, that is Eddie, my little brother, who has
Hello, Eddie.
Hey, he's recently joined. He edits and he makes the scrolls, which I'll explain a little bit later. But
We could call. I just thought of something.
tell me.
The editor.
Oh, the editor.
Yes. Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. He's
Yeah,
the
okay.
editor. So this, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce each other.
Yeah.
Then we're going to introduce sort of the idea of the podcast, a bit of the history behind it, and everything else we get into, plus a bunch of, like a little best of kind of snippets that the editor is...
Yay!
He's
You're
been
using
working
it.
on. So here we go. We start with the intro music. And that intro music, and the other thing is we're going to sort of answer a lot of questions that people have sent in over the years. One of them is that, where does the intro music come from? The very first episode of this show, a band called Slim and the Beast came on and played live music.
Terrific, guys.
Great guys. They played at our wedding. Lovely, lovely chaps. And they did that as part of a song called Go For A Ride that they wrote for our honeymoon, which we'll talk about later as well, I think.
Yeah.
But in terms of introducing each other, I thought it could be fun if we introduce...
All right.
I introduce you, then you introduce me.
Okay, yes.
So, Lina...
So, you can't, brag.
No,
you have to brag for the other
exactly,
person.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Lina Norden G
That's
is a Swede from Stockholm. Shoe designer, hand designer. Usually I introduce myself. A handbag designer. She's lived in Paris since 2015. When the major lockdown, the one that probably everyone thinks of when you talk about France and confinement, when that hit, she all her shoes and handbags got taken in, held hostage at the shops around Paris and the world. So she turned her hand to art and painting, which she sort of turned into a career, I'd say. She's not like the co-host of this podcast or anything, but she's one of the most frequently appearing guests. And
my schedule is very open. I'm very free.
And when we turned the
What a loser.
when we turned the Earful Tower into a company, she became the official first lady of the company. And so now this is our full-time gig, and there you go.
Wow, that's great. Do you think you can write my CV? Oh no, I'm employed by this company.
You're this second CEO, you're the first
I don't
lady
need a
of it.
CV.
What are you writing?
Nah, but seriously. My turn. So, this is Oliver G. He is the voice, the host, and the founder of the Earful Tower world, I'd like to say, because it's not just a podcast, it's sort of a blog, it's like a members group, it's a lot of everything. He is also an author. He's written 2 books, one proper book and one children's book, which is also a proper book, I guess.
All right, I'm going...
Less serious.
I'm going red in the face.
Yeah.
You guys get the picture. And this all started 4 years ago. I thought it was 3 years ago when I've been
We're
telling
married,
people that.
by the way.
Oh yeah, did we not say that?
I don't think so.
And that's another thing. We sort of share a bit of personal news about ourselves, but mostly it's about Paris, the podcast, and I'll explain that in a second. But first I want to touch on a bit of personal news that I think a lot of you know already. I want to introduce you to the newest member of the Earful Tower family. Yes, I think we'll do it via audio.
Wow, that sounds like a stressed person.
That was the heartbeat of a little baby that we're expecting in May 2021.
Baby G.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So now I think, and that's something I guess we'll talk about at some point, but at the moment we'll just work on it behind the scenes, I think.
Let it cook for a while.
Yes, but there you go. That's us in a nutshell. Now about the podcast. People, if you haven't left already, this is what, because it's not usually just Lina and I chatting. Usually the podcast, the way I explain it to people is it's me interviewing a person in Paris, the kind of person who makes the City of Light shine. That's how I explain it.
Oh, I like that. That's a nice way of putting it.
Over the years, I've done about, I think, 200, 250, maybe 300 episodes. I don't know. They come out every single Monday in Paris time, 8 a.m. usually. And typically, it's me chatting for about half an hour with one of these guests. When the show started, it was quite challenging to attract guests because they knew no one would hear it. They looked me up in 2 seconds.
And also, I guess podcasts maybe weren't such a known thing.
Now everyone has a podcast.
I'd say back then, it was only
4 years ago,
4 years
sure.
ago.
Even
but
today, a lot of people don't get
podcasts. It's really it's been a boom.
For sure.
Lately.
There'll be people listening right now who don't listen to podcasts, and I welcome you, and I'm going to give you the information. If you have a smartphone, if you're listening to this through my website or through something else, if you have a smartphone, you have an app called Podcasts. Search for the Earful Tower, EARFUL Tower, which is a pun on the Eiffel Tower because it's for your ears. We're kind of taking it back to square one here.
Yeah, I like it.
You hit subscribe, you get all these episodes for free. And Eddie has put together a little package of some of the people that I've spoken with over the years. Hit it, Eddie.
This week's guest is actually a New York Times best-selling author.
This week it is the mayor of Montmartre. Today's guest is Caroline de Maigret, and we're going to be talking about Pigalle, her new book, and a lot more.
When you think about France, one of the main things that will come to your mind is food. And who better to help us understand food than David Leibovitz? He's a food blogger, he's a chef, he's a pastry chef extraordinaire.
Today's guest is a really fun one. Vali, her name is. She came to Paris a handful of decades ago, and she was in the first ever French rap song. It's not a typical guest. In fact, it's not a typical guest at all. It's a cat. In fact, beyond that, it's several cats. 50 cats. You came for a bit of a show, so kick those heels up in the air, get ready for a bit of a dance, get your best can shoes on, and here we go. We're going to the Moulin Rouge. Wow, kind of crazy, Lina, to think how many people I've sat down with.
Yeah, this is good. It's cool. It's like a... What do you call it when you see it in review? A year in review? Can you say that?
Yeah, 4 years in review.
Yeah, 4 years in review.
And one of the questions I get asked really often is they go, aren't you worried you're going to run out of ideas? I hear that a lot. And what I always say to that is if you run out of ideas in Paris, there's something wrong with you, for a start. Because I think there's a billion ideas here. Secondly, all these people who you've heard on the show, they all have 10 cool stories, you know?
Yeah.
Like if someone's a best-selling author, they're full of stories.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, some of the guests, not just me, some of the guests you've had on the show several times, and that's also quite interesting.
That's what I mean.
think.
Like
yeah.
you can get someone back on to talk about the new book that they've done, or
Exactly.
you get them on to talk about how Paris is under a lockdown or whatever. But on top of that, there are sometimes I interview guests who aren't even alive anymore. Take a listen.
Hello.
Is that this is Oliver G? Is this Edith?
Edith, you mean? Edith. My name is Edith.
Yes.
Yes,
Edith,
it's me. Edith.
It is Madame Piaf.
Mademoiselle.
Yes, hello. Who is this?
Hello, this is Oliver.
Oliver, who? Where are you from, Oliver?
Oliver, we met briefly.
Did we meet at the Star? Where are you calling from? I'm a busy man.
We met ever so briefly, and you told me to call you. I'm the journalist.
Yes, Oliver, the Australian. Yes, I remember you now. How are you?
So there you heard Edith Piaf and Ernest Hemingway. Obviously, it wasn't the real deal. I don't know if you guys know.
I really, personally, those are two of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. Are you planning to do some more?
The thing that's tough with them is you need to get someone who really knows the life of
A bit of an actor, almost.
an actor and
A
slash
knowledgeable
historian.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of them there are, but
Yeah,
I'm interested
they're
in
rare.
doing more. And I've got some on my radar.
Really? Can you hint something?
Oscar Wilde.
Really?
Oh, I gave it away.
That was a very good hint.
No, but I'll tell you what else is really hard. I was thinking about the Oscar Wilde one. Is he had such a troubled and sad life. And it's hard to make a fun episode out of that.
Yeah.
It would be really depressing.
Yeah.
I researched his life.
that
It's
is
so
sad.
depressing. His life in Paris.
Yeah.
Oh man, it wouldn't be a fun episode.
not a romantic.
And it'd be really hard on the actor because he's known for being extremely witty and good with words. And if we're just doing freestyle, that actor that's a tough job.
Yeah, you need to pay him lots.
Funnily enough, the actor I had in mind is a she.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Mix it up a
Anyway,
bit.
that is something for a future episode,
Interesting.
perhaps. But I want to talk about another kind of episode that really opened up the doors of the Earful Tower. Probably got a lot of new listeners as well. Is when I got thinking about... I'll tell you how it happened, actually. There's a cool story behind it. One day, as you know, Lena, I saw Caroline de Maigret, the ultimate Parisienne, as far as I'm concerned. You were there, actually.
Yeah.
She was on the other side of the road, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's her.
That's her.
That's her. I've got to
That's
go
the
talk.
fringe, the famous
The
fringe.
fringe. and I crossed the road, and this is like 2 years ago or something now. And I stopped there, and I said, and in fact, if you guys don't know who I'm talking about, she wrote the book How to Be Parisian Wherever You Are. You've surely seen her before,
Yeah,
on the
I'm sure
news
you'd
or on Instagram
recognize,
or something.
yeah.
And I said, look. Sort of just stop you in the street. I'm an Australian podcaster. I wonder if you do interviews with people like me. And we chatted a little bit. She goes, look, if we're going to do this, I'm super busy. But if we're going to do it, it has to be right now in a cafe, right
She's
there.
so cool about it.
Yeah, she was super
Oh my
cool.
god.
And I sort of
I
panicked.
get starstruck just thinking about it.
I sort of panicked because I hadn't researched it at all, obviously, because it was a
Yeah.
chance encounter. And we sat in a really busy cafe, and I recorded on my telephone, on my smartphone, and I was petrified that all the noises, like the waiter interrupted us, there was a noisy espresso machine in the background, there were police sirens going past, and I remember editing it and thinking, oh gosh,
People are gonna hate this.
People are going to be so distracted, but it was the opposite. It was
the
so
ambiance.
fascinating. People wrote in, I felt like I was sitting there in the cafe with you, and that opened my eyes for this very podcast. I thought, why have I been so brutal on myself, sitting in the studio, getting the guests to walk up all these flights of stairs for this perfect quiet sound, when everyone wants to be reminded of their trip to Paris.
Yeah.
And it opened these new doors, and I started, in fact, in the past year and a half, I don't think I've used the studio.
Yeah, this portable recorder that we're using right now, it has been it's been a change.
I wonder if people could hear the cat meowing in the background. I'm not even kidding. There's a cat
A
in the
real
background.
Parisian cat.
But then, so I started, the last episode was by the Seine. You could hear the flooding river, you
Yeah.
could hear the sirens, you could hear the traffic behind us. And that opened us up to doing episodes, not just around Paris, but around France.
On the go.
So what I want to start with is a sort of a collection of episodes around Paris. And it was these kind of episodes, I think, that caught the attention of the New York Times, who did the write-up about the show. In fact, they wrote about the one where we got on the scooter and tackled the 8th arrondissement.
I remember that day.
They wrote, it was so weird, they quoted that podcast where you and I were just nonsense talking. It was a bit that
Much
said...
like this.
Imagine they quoted this. They wrote the bit. I said something like, so wherever you are in the world, close your eyes and imagine you're on the back of a scooter whistling down the Champs-Elysees or something like that. And then we did exactly that. So here comes a little bit of fun from some of the episodes where I've gone around Paris with the microphone. And we'll start deep in the sewers of Paris.
Hey, it's only like $4.40 for a ticket. Pretty cheap.
I wonder why. Let's go find out. Oh, yeah.
It's getting really loud. This is going to be disgusting. This is like a crap waterfall. Oh my god. Yep, that's revolting. That's the sound of the squeaking floors as we go through the rooms of Louis XIV. Have you ever seen any animals in the canal?
Animals?
Yeah.
Ducks?
Ducks?
That's all.
That's all? Someone told me that there is an enormous beaver, a castor.
Oh, it would be nice.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
But do you think it's possible?
Yes, why not?
Well, a lot of people say it's impossible.
I know there is crocodiles. I know.
How do you know that?
I put them.
You put them in there.
But it's a secret.
So I'm in the cheese shop now. I'm going to go full French. Let's go. Lina, you ready?
Yes.
We're next in line. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Ça va?
Oui, et vous?
Oui, merci.
Vous venez d'où?
Moi, je suis australien.
La suédoise.
Super.
Et vous?
Française.
Français. D'ici aussi?
Oui, d'ici.
Cool.
We're walking towards it, not a queue in sight like there usually is, and the security guard opens the door and we step in, hit by the organ music, and descend into the belly of the Louvre. Oh, what fun.
Yeah.
The sewer museum. I swear my clothes still smell.
Yeah.
from
Now we
that.
burned them.
But episodes like that, my idea, if this is your first episode, is that you'll scroll around through the 250 plus episodes and find things that capture your fancy, capture your attention. Yeah. And you just scroll, you can go to if you just go to the earfultower.com/episodes, they're really easy on the website to scroll through. Otherwise, just use your phone or Spotify. It's everywhere. It's my job, I want you to find this, so I've taken it quite seriously. But you can scroll through, like maybe there's a famous Parisian chef you quite like. He or she's probably been on this show. Just scroll through, look for him. Or maybe you're fascinated by museums. I've done episodes in loads of museums, So the point is there's plenty of these kind of fun on-the-go episodes. Like you and I, we've been out to Versailles a bunch of times. Anyway.
We had a whole honeymoon
That's
together.
what I was just going to lead to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, it's perfect.
Well, not a spoiler, like Oscar Wilde.
When in 20... And what's cool is some people who haven't heard this before, this show, will have no idea what we're talking about. So to paint it as a really sort of simple picture from the beginning, in 2018, Lina and I got married, and we drive a little red scooter around Paris. And it's a scooter that's built for a city. Right?
Yeah, it's like, 45 kilometers an hour
30
max,
miles an hour
top
in
speed.
case you're in America.
Yeah.
Really.
Not fast, not powerful, very cute.
No room for packing luggage.
No.
But did that stop us?
No.
No, it didn't. We did well, I'm not going to spoil this bit, but we tried to do a love heart shaped trip around France. It was 4,000 kilometers.
It sounds ridiculous.
It was. I can't believe we did it.
I can't believe we actually did it.
Yeah. And we took 2 months to do it. Just Lina and I on a silly little scooter on all the back roads. So we've been to like every village.
Mountains. Literally.
Cross
mountains.
mega mountains.
It's crazy.
We went through.
What were we thinking?
It was new love. It was amazing. And what we did is we recorded episodes every Monday, I think it was, explaining what we'd done and recommending things along the way. And what was funny about that is it was some people's favorite season, and some people who are only here for Paris, I think it was their least favorite season. But as I've said a million times, Paris isn't France, France isn't Paris. You should always get them both in.
Something for everyone.
What are your takeaways from that honeymoon?
Oh, wow. I mean, what just comes to mind is it was so cool. It was the first time that I feel like I got to know France.
Me too.
So all the it's just different, not cultures, but like seeing the landscape change.
Yeah,
it is. Like up in the north, the Breton way, and like what they love to eat and how they feel
proud up
so
there.
proud.
Yeah.
And then coming down towards the south, and they're so relaxed, and the accents change, and the architecture changed, the weather changed. Like, it was just so interesting to see that.
Driving on a
side.
scooter was really cool because we were sort of open to the elements. You could smell the sunflower field,
Exactly.
or the lavender in Provence.
It was
and we
really special.
went everywhere. If I could just like just to picture, if you know France at all, we sort of left Paris to the west, through right to the top of Brittany,
Normandy, Brittany,
down the west coast, along the south coast, up the eastern border through Annecy, and then back to Paris. It's crazy that we did that.
It is crazy.
But we're not going to do.
I love it.
We won't do little snippets from that because I think that's a good enough summary of what we did. But if you are into France, I highly recommend you go check those ones out. So that's kind of I think if you've listened this far and you're not attracted to the idea of listening to this podcast, you're never going to listen to it. Turn it off. Have a lovely day. You're not. If this doesn't capture your fantasy, then forget it.
You tried your best.
Yeah. The proper reason why I did this episode is I did an Instagram poll. And I said, be honest, everybody. Yes or no, have you ever listened to the podcast before? And like 33% said no. And that
is substantial.
Yeah, and I kind of took it as a cool thing. I was like, yeah, I know a lot of people aren't podcast listeners. First, it was cool that 65% had listened to it.
Yeah.
But also, I figured, like, this is such a big thing, it's hard to jump into as a newbie. So I wanted
like, where do you start? It's quite daunting. Like, do I start from number 1 and then work my way through, 250?
That's a really good point. That if you do want to know where to start with this after you listen to this episode, I wouldn't recommend starting at the beginning. I'd jump in and find episodes that you think...
Yeah, like, are you a foodie?
Yeah.
Go for the foodie episodes,
Are
the
you coming
restaurants,
to Paris? Find the ones about the places that you want to check out. Are you interested in France? Check the honeymoon season. Are you interested in books? Find an author. I've had must have 50 authors on this show. But one of the questions I get asked the most often, and you as well, I guess, we've done a lot of these events, virtual events especially, where we talk to people around the world about what we do. But one of the questions that I get asked, especially at like weddings and stuff, when people ask if I'm a podcaster, when I tell people that I'm a podcaster, they go, how do you make a career out of that?
Yeah.
How do you monetize it? And people are very nosy.
People always want to know. It's like it's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like just once in a while. It's like pretty much everyone asks
pretty much
that.
the first question.
Yeah.
They go, how do you monetize that? And I think I get it. It's because it's kind of new, and I think people, the first thing
it's seen as a hobby, I guess.
Yeah, I think people see it as a hobby. But this is a career, and I'll tell you how I do it, and you as well, I think, should share. But the way that I turn this into a job, and I think all the regulars know this by now, is I set up a membership platform. It's on a website called Patreon, and it's kind of like in the old days of Paris, where, you know, the artists who had no income had people who'd be their patron and would buy them a meal or whatever so they could keep painting. And there's a website that is exactly like that, that's hugely popular. In fact, there are like bordering on celebrities that have started using it now. It's a way to sort of get people who are fans of something to help keep it going.
Support creators.
Exactly. So there's this website, and about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I launched a membership platform. It's kind of like Netflix. People subscribe, you pay by the month or by the year, and it gets you all kinds of bonuses.
Yeah, extra material, extra episodes.
Exactly.
Scrolls, editor.
Yes, so editor.
Editor.
As well, we get to that in a sec, because first, when it started, it was mostly extra bonus walks that I do around Paris. I still do them, but there are a lot of other bonus things, like the event at the Australian Ambassador's residence by the Eiffel Tower. That was only for members, right? And the idea of how the membership works is twofold. It's partly that you're a member and you're keeping the podcast going and keeping it free for people who can't be members or who adamantly don't want to be. But also you get all the bonuses. And more recently, what that's been is when we have an episode, like for example, if I interview, I don't know, last week it was I interviewed Vero about the apéro, and Eddie made like a 10-page PDF document about everything we talked about. So if in the episode there's a street mentioned or a book mentioned or a blog mentioned, it's all there with pictures and extras, and they're only for Patreon members. And I'm not going to go on about it because this is a lot of people's first episodes, but the website is patreon.com/The Earful Tower, and thanks to the generous people there, this is my career. There was a point I just wanted to get minimum wage, and that was like a year ago that we got it, and it's grown since then, and I'm super proud to be able to employ people. In fact,
make the show grow.
You're now officially employed by the Earful Tower too.
Yeah.
Legally, we're both employed by a podcast.
It's amazing.
Kind of crazy. So that's how we're sitting here still doing this after 4 years. The Patreon members, I kind of feel like most of them will still be listening, even though it's an introductory episode. Thank you. As I've said before, and I'll say many times again, if it wasn't for you guys, I would have given this up a long time ago. But kind of excitingly, in recent months, really, everything's been supplemented by books. I wrote a book, as Lina mentioned at the beginning, Paris on Air. I'm going to say this, it's a chance to say it sort of I'll say it like it's the first time. The book Paris on Air, it's just my memoir. It's the story of the past 5 years in Paris, and it's fun. It's meant to be sort of virtual travel, and I think you'd chuckle in some bits. I think if you've enjoyed this episode, you'd enjoy the book. And the best way to get it, if you want to help us out, is you get it via my website. That way the profits aren't going to some big...
the big fat cats.
The big fat cats. It's better for me if you get it through me than any bookshop. It is sold in some very prominent bookshops. I'm not going to get into them at the moment because the best way is to buy it through the EarfulTower.com/memoir, and that also goes for our children's book.
Yeah!
The EarfulTower.com/croc. I wrote it.
CROC.
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think I've ever said on the show, the EarfulTower.com/shop, and you can find all the stuff there. The children's book is something I wrote based on the crocodile lady that you heard a little while ago, and Lina illustrated it, which brings, and we only published it like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know. It's so fresh still.
And it sounds really lame to say this, but it's true. It's almost sold out. There aren't many copies left.
It's very exciting.
We got copies in Seattle, Toronto, and Melbourne, and Paris.
I just love the idea of children flicking through that book and just really it's such a mind-blowing kind of idea to me. It's so cool.
And keep sending in pictures and stuff like that because we love it. Especially now we have a little one on the way. But that brought us sort of nicely into what you do. Now that the shoes and handbags are sort of on hold, I guess.
Well, they are still. I mean, it's been very on and off, but this year, 2020, for everyone was crazy, including me, with the shoe and handbag business because a lot of the shops just closed, the factories closed for ages.
Something
it was just like
we
it
talked
was
about
chaos.
your stuff was in Printemps. Have we talked about it on the show before? Like one of the biggest department stores. They put it in the window.
Yeah.
Everything seems so.
It was just before everything happened,
gosh.
and then the lockdown happened, and
So the
it
shops,
just came
they
to a
still
halt.
closed the department stores.
Yeah,
But
it
you know
is.
what was a horrible, like sort of, almost a metaphor is. Your shoes were taken out of the window and they just left plants in the window displays of Printemps. And on our daily walks, sometimes we'd go as far as their department store and the flowers and
We just
plants.
saw them wilt away.
they
It was
wilted
so
over 2
sad.
months.
They were just like brown dead plants. Anyways,
But on a more positive
On a
note,
more positive
you bloomed. You bloomed. Let's turn it around and you
well,
started
that's a
doing
nice
watercolors.
way.
Yeah.
I started doing watercolors and making them into prints, which I set up an Etsy shop online. Where I sold those prints, and yeah, it went really well.
The
I was
easiest
very
way to find it
excited.
is the EarfulTower.com/art. So just ART. I'll put all these links in the show notes. But it took off, didn't it?
Yeah, it went really well. So thank you so much. I know a lot of you guys have already bought prints, and that's so cool. So
Pictures of them
cool.
on people's walls.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so lovely.
And then during the first lockdown, we sat down and we're like, how to capture Paris? Capture both of the things that we
want to do a proper collaboration
for the first time.
For the first time,
Because
something
you can
that
hardly
is
call
like
this conversation a collaboration.
no, it's just a little chat.
Yeah. But
something like your words, my illustrations, and it just came to us like the perfect thing would be a children's book.
And so it was. Kylie the Crocodile in Paris. It's been a super fun journey. Super fun journey. So thank you to everyone who has been part of it. It's been extraordinarily touching.
And you know what?
What?
There's a second one coming.
A second child?
No, we're not having twins.
There's a second children's book. I've already written it, and
Yeah.
Lina's working on the illustrations. And there's also a second book. I'm writing a follow-up to Paris on Air.
So
based
things
on,
are happening.
Yeah, we're super busy, and it's easy to be busy when Paris is in curfew at the moment, as it is, and we can't go to the discotheque as we usually would.
Well.
Before we finish up, I just figured something that I haven't done a sort of a qualifier of what this show is.
Yeah.
As in, I think it's really easy for people who are listening maybe to think it's just me and you talking out
chatting
to our parents, essentially. Your parents don't even listen. Sometimes they do.
They do when I make them feel bad.
My parents do listen, but it is in their native language, to be fair. But the reason I bring it up is there are actually a lot of people that are listening And at the last count, last month it had 70,000 downloads, this podcast. So when I say 70,000, that's just for the month. In total, it's over 1.5 million downloads now, which is crazy.
That's
it is
amazing.
Crazy to me that there are so many people listening.
So many ears.
We can see it, obviously. There are 5,000 people subscribed to the newsletter. There, between us, we got, 20, 30,000 people following on Instagram. We know that there are a lot of you out there, and we're very conscious of it. And I am especially conscious to put out the best kind of episodes I can. So we take it very seriously, and it is our career. So rest assured, you're not alone in listening. There are other people, This isn't some weird little indie podcast that only you like. You've got like-minded souls out there. And the best place to chat with them, in fact, a lot of people do chat, is on the Patreon page.
Yeah.
I saw people in Melbourne are becoming friends with people in North Carolina recently.
Really?
I thought it was so
I
cool.
love that.
And there have been member meetups. But enough about that. I want to finish on an email that got sent in. I always read the emails without fail. I'm not as good at reading all the comments on all the social media. But emails I'll always read. Even more so if it's sent through the Patreon page. And that is exactly what happened today. I want to read out a message from Virginia Hanley. Hello, Virginia.
Hi, Vinny.
Vinny?
Can I call her Vinny?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know. Too familiar? Virginia.
She says, I've visited Paris a few times and I look forward to returning. Hope that's soon.
Yeah.
She says, I've been enjoying the Earful Tower podcast. This next bit's in capitals. Loved the book Paris on Air. I read once the electronic version. I listened to the audio. I bought print copies to share with friends. Whoa! Okay, I like that.
Amazing.
Thanks, V. And she's
just V now.
she's referring to the audiobook during the lockdown, as well as making a children's book. I turned Paris on Air into an audio experience, I call it, with actors doing voices, sound effects, thunder, lightning.
The works.
She says, and thanks for buying copies for your friends. She says, I've signed up for Patreon support because you are expecting a baby, and my wish for you and Lina is an uneventful pregnancy and a speedy delivery.
Oh,
that is super kind of you.
That's so sweet.
So thank you, Ver, for sending that in.
It's just going shorter and shorter.
No, Virginia, in this case, signed up for the year. You can do that. You get 2 months for free. As I've said from the beginning, this goes into making the Eiffel Tower better. That's very kind of you, Virginia. Thank you very much. And you guys can rest assured, as you've seen from the beginning of Patreon, the show gets better as more members come in. Eddie can attest to that. Eddie, are you still there?
I'm certainly still here, Oliver, and yes, the show does get better and better and better, almost with every episode. In fact, this one could be your best yet, because we figured out how to splice my voice in.
Look, that's enough for today. This was an introduction to the Earful Tower podcast. If this has been your first episode, I hope that you listen to more, and more importantly, I hope you subscribe and listen to the future episodes, because this thing's only going to keep getting better. Lina, thank you for being my occasional co-host, full-time wife, and first lady of the Earful Tower.
Well, thank you for having me on and off the show.
In exciting news, actually, we almost certainly know where we're moving next.
Yes!
And we have to be a bit careful here because nothing's signed and we
don't want to jinx it.
Exactly. So, Eddie, be careful with what you let go out. But we're moving, should we say it?
Yes!
We're moving to the arrondissement.
Oh, I'm so excited. I just love the...
Why do you love the arrondissement so much?
Well, I think it's just... I mean, out of the 20, the is just the best.
It's true. And I think a lot of people who've followed this show from the beginning, they know that I've talked about the arrondissement. Quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to talk about when you talk about the arrondissement.
But it is, I'll tell you this, for the regular listeners who know that we lived in the 18th arrondissement before, it's not the 18th, of course, and it's quite different. It's quite different indeed.
Mm-hmm. In many ways.
To sum it up, Lina, I think we should both give a word that sums up what we're excited about for the arrondissement.
Okay.
My word
would
be walking.
Are you kidding? I was going to say something like that. I was going to say strolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a clue for you guys. We should be moving to the arrondissement at the start of March.
Yeah.
So that will be very
soon.
exciting. It's going to be an amazing time. Okay,
I
guys.
can't believe you said that.
I am going to end with something fun that I really enjoyed doing last time. Is if you've listened this far, Lina and I, quite like knowing which one of you guys finish. Like, it's a fun little game that we have to see who's finished. So I'm going to put up a picture of Lina and I again on Instagram. It's going to be a picture of me and Lina. I don't quite know which one it will be, but it will come out on the day this episode comes out. If you've listened this far, I want you to put a comment that features an animal emoji. It's stupid.
Feel free to go as crazy as you wish.
But the most fun ones for us, and some guys really got this last time, is if you sort of bake it in a funny way. Like, if you just do 3 dolphins, that's fine. We'll go, oh, look, Jenna listens. That's
last time it was fruit.
Yeah, last time we did fruit.
And it was like, sort of like, oh, I just went bananas for this episode. Something like that.
Or you two are such a lovely pair. And they put a pair. So those ones we really loved. But because the weirdest thing with this podcast is I know people listen, but in my mind, like, it's 100 people listen.
It's your mum.
Yeah, but there were there must have been like 300 fruit emojis that came in. Great. So we will look through, we'll see who did it. If you do it funny, we'll particularly enjoy it. But the idea of doing it without saying, I listened, here's the dolphin, is that the people who haven't listened will be wondering what the heck is going on.
What is this weird club?
Yeah, so let's mess with those guys and get fruity. But not by doing fruit, but unless you're in an animal. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, or in the future, if you're trying to get your friend to listen to this show, send them this one. It'll give them a good sort of introduction to us. I've had a whale of a time, Lina, making this.
You're such a dog.
What? Don't get catty with me. That's enough from us.
All right.
Find us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and hopefully you've had a laugh with us. If not, I'm so sorry that you just have to listen to all this nonsense. Have a lovely week wherever you are. Merci beaucoup.
Bye.
Au revoir.